Hello, our amazing listeners of Neurocareers doing the impossible. It's your podcast host, Dr. Milena Krastenskaya, or simply Dr. K. And I'm excited to welcome you to the second season of our podcast, exploring entrepreneurial careers in neuroscience and neurotechnologies. Have you ever wondered what it takes to transform brain science into groundbreaking products and services? Are you curious about the fearless visionaries who bridge the gap between neuroscience and entrepreneurship to change people's life and reshape our world? Are you ready to explore how to navigate the uncharted waters of neurotech entrepreneurship? In season two, we're diving deep into the world of entrepreneurial ventures in neuroscience and neurotechnologies. If you are looking to create an immediate impact and translate your neuroscience and neurotech ideas into innovative services that truly make a difference in the world, this season is tailor made for you. Join us and learn from the best in the field about succeeding in the entrepreneurial journey in neuroscience and neurotechnology where innovation meets impact. We've got an incredible lineup of guests who are not only shaped their careers but have also made a profound impact on the field. Throughout this season, we'll explore the captivating stories of visionaries who've risen to the challenge, who've turned obstacles into opportunities, and who've innovated in ways that are changing the landscape of neurocareers. So, whether you are a seasoned professional in the field, an inspiring entrepreneur, or simply curious about the intersection of science and business in this ever evolving arena, the season promises inspiration, education, and a glimpse into the exciting future of neurocareers. I am Dr. Milena Krastenskaya, the founder of the Institute of Neuroapproaches, where I help people establish successful careers in neuroscience and neurotechnologies through career coaching and education. So let's dive into the entrepreneurial journeys that are shaping the future of neuroscience and neurotechnologies together. Tune in now into the thrilling episode number 77. Dear Neurocareers podcast listeners, are you ready to learn how to use neuroscience knowledge to enhance your overall well-being? Then meet Marcelle Siegel, PhD, a professor of science education at the University of Missouri and the founder of brainRISE, an innovative platform dedicated to functional brain wellness and inclusive leadership strategies. Dr. Siegel's academic background includes years of experience in neuroscience, curriculum development for national reforms, professional development in urban and rural schools, and a focus on understanding and improving assessment practices in science classrooms. With a PhD in the interdisciplinary science and mathematics education program at UC Berkeley, she brings a wealth of expertise to the field of education and neuroscience. Join us on this exciting episode of Neurocareers Doing the Impossible as we dive into Dr. Siegel's journey, exploring her innovative approach to brain wellness. Discover how biohacking and practical neuroscience can help you feel great again. You will also benefit from the wealth of experience Dr. Siegel has to share about the careers in academia. Hello, Marcel. Thank you very much for joining us on our Neurocareers Doing the Impossible podcast. Can you please introduce yourself and let us know where you are joining us from what part of the world?
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm Marcelle Siegel, and I am joining you from the Midwest, the middle of the country in the United States, Columbia, Missouri. I'm not from here, but I've lived here almost 20 years now. And I am a science education professor, and I have started a brain health company called brainRISE. And so I'm excited to chat with you about it today.
Thank you so much. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about the university where you are teaching? It's very interesting for our listeners to learn about the places where people work, where they do their amazing studies, amazing research. So, if you can give some information about the university, maybe some interesting facts about it, that would be very much appreciated.
Well, I'm at the University of Missouri in Columbia. It's a land grant university, meaning that we do agricultural work. It's a public university. We serve the state of Missouri. A medical school. We have a law school. We're famous for our journalism school. I'm in the biochemistry department as well as the education department, and we've got a wonderful college of education, a wonderful division. It's called CAFNR, College of Ag, Forestry, Natural Resources, and biochemistry. My appointment in biochemistry is within that division. Some people in biochemistry also have an appointment in the medical school, in the medical division as well. Let's see, a fun fact about Mizzou. Mizzou has some great sports teams, so it's a fun place to go if you love to watch sports. We have a really wonderful active student community on campus. It's a school of about 30,000 people, and the students at Mizzou have great opportunities to learn from a top research university, professors at a top research university. There's wonderful social clubs, fraternities, sororities on campus. There's wonderful sports events. There's wonderful culture and arts in the community. Even though we're a small town of about 125,000 people. But we have about 5 colleges in the town, not just Mizzou, but other wonderful colleges as well, smaller colleges. So it has a really great university feel to the town. And there's some wonderful science that goes on here. The life sciences is a really strong aspect of the university. And we're also very interdisciplinary at Mizzou. So they value us working across disciplinary lines. So I do a lot of collaborations across different departments, which I say that's one of the really good things about being at the University of Missouri at Mizzou.
Mhm. Thank you so much. And what about the neuroscience program? How much is it developed and what are the strengths of the program?
I'm not really involved in the neuroscience program at Mizzou. It's kind of interesting because my background is in neuroscience and the learning sciences, but I was working at UC San Francisco when I got hired which is very molecular biology based, very great research university. And so I came in with a biochemistry appointment in education because that was the job that was open. So I don't do any neuroscience on campus. I do science education, biochemistry education. I teach biochemistry and biotechnology. And I also teach education and how to do a better job in STEM education. So the neuroscience program here, it's a little small, but there's a program where they have different departments collaborate to create a neuro focus. So there is an opportunity to study neuro on campus.
Thank you very much. And now we already know about your background in molecular biology and education. How did you come to become a professional in this field? Do you remember yourself as a kid? What were your interests and what drove you to learn all the things that you learned?
Well, let's see. When I was a child, I loved just life and life science, right? So just thinking about, look at this frog jumping in the pond. What is it doing? Why is this frog so different than me? Is this frog thinking? What is this frog's life like? So as a child, I love to play outside and just kind of get engaged in all the creatures and animals and plants and things that are around. And that was kind of the beginning of my interest in neuro and then the life sciences. In college, I was really interested in neuroscience and psychology and neurobiology and behavior. The college I went to had a program that was more molecular. And so I went and took a bus to the college nearby so that I could be in a neurobiology and behavior major and concentrate in that. And I worked in a sensory motor integration lab as an undergraduate and just loved my experience. I thought it was just so fascinating that we could think about, like, why does something come in, like the sense comes in, how does it get processed? And then how do we then make a motor pattern? How do we integrate that to create movement in our body? So that was what I studied as an undergraduate. I was fascinated by that. I remember talking to some of my professors about kind of how to major and how to, focus for my career. And I got some really good advice from my anthropology professor. I remember his name was Wyatt McGaffey, wonderful professor. I told him that I was really interested in his field of anthropology and that I was also considering neurobiology and the neurosciences and just said a few words about that. And he thought about it and was quick to say that, well, the anthropology field, is kind of more shrinking. There are less jobs in that. It's not an up and coming field like it used to be. Whereas his knowledge of neurobiology was that neurobiology was an up and coming field, right? This was like 30 years ago. And there was going to be so much interesting action in that field. And so that if it was him, he might think of the decision that way. It's like, which field would you rather go into? Well, neuroscience today is a super hot field, right? I mean, it's still there's just, kind of one of the huge frontiers in science is neuroscience. So I took his advice and went more the neuroscience direction and majored in neurobio, and then went to Berkeley and got a PhD in it.
Mhm. What was the topic of your PhD?
My PhD was about decision making. So I looked at human decision making, and I worked with a computer program called ConvinceMe. It was a neural network, and we programmed it, and we programmed it to help students, really all people, but for this, it was students, to make logical decisions and weigh evidence in the decisions that they made.
Yeah, that is a very interesting topic. Actually, many of our listeners are asking about this specific field, and because in a way is also tied to user experiences, choices we make. People who are speaking about neuromarketing research
Mhm.
talk a lot about the decision making. Maybe you can give
Yeah.
us some insights how this field developed and what are the major findings, major changes in this field that we can see with the current development of neurotechnologies.
Yes, it's super. I just think this field is super exciting. So back 30 years ago, we had these little, very simple neural networks that you could make little changes in, and you could run the network, and it would come out, and it was like little line drawings and little, very simple little graphs. And these days, the technology it's just amazing. The artificial intelligence, I think, is a huge thing that's going to change not just neuroscience, but the rest of the landscape of our society. And so that's a huge change that's coming up.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now you finished your PhD. What were your next steps? How did you make your choice to pursue the job in academia? Why didn't you choose maybe to go the other route, which now becomes more and more popular, working in industry settings?
Yeah, there's so many wonderful jobs in industry right now. Yeah, so I highly recommend to young people thinking about a career that to really look at the different types of jobs in industry, jobs related to the medical field. And then I went the academic route because I just loved learning, and I had loved my experiences so far in academia. And I loved education, and I loved teaching and helping people learn. Like, so thinking about how do we better help students learn. So I really had a big focus on education in my PhD. And I looked at mostly really academic types of jobs. I went and did a postdoc at the University of Wisconsin as a National Institute for Science Ed fellow, and I studied technology-based education. So we had a knowledge web. We had kind of this technology-based network for learning that we created, we developed, we programmed. It was based on cognitive flexibility theory, so you could make choices as you were going. So there was some choice. I still had kind of this choice in my background as I was as a postdoc. I stayed there about a year and a half, and then was starting to look at professor positions and other positions. And I took a position at a sort of, I call it a pseudo academic, in that it was associated with an academic institution, but it wasn't a professor job. It was more of a researcher job. And it was at the Lawrence Hall of Science. It was at a science museum, so very much education based. And so I kind of went more the education route and focused on developing curriculum for high school, middle school, elementary school, doing professional development with teachers, and doing research on how people were learning.
Yes, that was always my dream to work at least for, several years in the museum.
Oh,
Of course,
wow.
science
Yeah,
museum
yeah.
is a preference. So you already lived my dream. So, now, my next question is how did all this knowledge that you acquired about the neuroscience, how did it help you in your first job when you were developing various tools for education, teaching about various theories of education?
Well, so many things, kind of everything. Right? So, um, I mean, neuroscience is all about how we think and how we learn, right? The different types of learning. In my doctoral work and master's work, I studied the neural basis of learning and the neuroanatomical structures associated with that. And so I love thinking about how do we best help people learn? What is the context we need to set up? What is the learning environment we need to set up? And based on how people actually learn, right? So based on how do humans actually best learn? Therefore, let's think about that. And then let's set up the learning environment and the instruction in a way that best helps those students. So I would say it's helped. I mean, that's kind of what I do. That's just everything that I do is as a professor. And then as I am transitioning into more just focusing on brain health and improving people's health is how can we use what we know about the brain to support people to live their best life and learn the most that they can in a beautiful way that's comfortable for them and not threatening to them and not intimidating to them and not makes them not want to learn math anymore and that kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely. And we also see many new information about how our brain learns, how we are making decisions, how we remember things. So there are a lot of new research that is coming up. My question is, how is it influencing the science of education, of learning? Are there any new approaches that you see and that you are integrating into the science of education or into educational approaches?
Yeah, I mean, there's just tons and tons of research on that. We use cognitive science, so how people think, and then the learning sciences, which is an interdisciplinary group of sciences that's about thinking and neuroscience and how people learn. And there's research coming out all the time on that from how to better help people using technologies, how to best support them, how to provide support and then remove some of that support and have them do it on their own. There's things about, new like eye tracking technology. So to see what are learners looking at when they're learning something And you can even do that in a classroom. I have a colleague who's done that in a classroom where she has eye tracking devices on on all the little elementary students' heads. So there's just some amazing stuff that's happening these days with neuroscience research really affecting, how we can teach and how we can best help people learn.
Mhm. And if you remember when you were just starting, let's say 30 years ago, you mentioned, and the situation right now, how did our approach to learning, to education changed over time with the advancements of neuroscience, cognitive psychology, cognitive neuroscience, and all the knowledge that we acquired throughout the years?
When I was a student about 30 years ago, information processing was a big thing. So we learned a lot about, kind of simple pathways from sensation to output. And a lot of that was used in computer programming and how to create software for student learning. These days, there's been a lot more of social context related to learning. So we really understand how much the social context of a learning environment. It's not just one person learning things, going through a computer program and learning things, but if you're looking at a classroom, there's so many variables going on, right? So how you set up that social situation is incredibly important. And there's been a ton of research related to that in the field in the last 30 years. It existed, definitely existed, and was an interesting thing 30 years ago. These days, it's more like everyone knows it, I would say, in the education field. It's something it's very well known that we need to think about the social and cultural context of our learning as we're doing education.
Thank you. And the next question is your career development, your next steps, because now you are at the university, you're already not at the science museum. So obviously you changed something in your career. Can you tell our listeners about that? What facilitated this change? What did you want to move from those settings to different ones?
Yeah, so I started when I was back at Lawrence Hall, I started having ideas of grants that we could write, and I was sort of grant writing in my spare time on the weekends and things like that. So I started to realize that a professor position would be something that I was interested in. When I first graduated, I thought it seemed like so big and like such a big, difficult thing to do to be a professor. So I wasn't sure that I wanted to do it. But as I got more experience with teaching and more experience in the field and started getting my own ideas of things, oh, I want to go research this and I want to go test this. I realized that it would be a good position for me and that it would give me that ability to write my own projects and come up with my own research ideas. And then it wouldn't be something that I just had to do on the weekends kind of thing. So that's when I kind of realized that I wanted to really go into academia full steam and started going in the job market. And when I ended up at the University of Missouri, it was a wonderful place to be in terms of science education and interdisciplinary work. We had all people in physics education and biology education and things like that. So it was a very vibrant place to be for the beginning of my career. I've just been cranking out projects and I've been continuously funded since I've been here, writing grants and bringing in money to the university for, to fund students for students projects, to fund outreach projects, to bring people into the university to learn science and things like that. And now I'm at a point in my career where I'm thinking about what do I want to do in my next stage, Do I want to be a professor until I'm 70? And I've been thinking, no, I think I'm ready for something really different. I also went through a health crisis. So to be a bit vulnerable, I've overcome stress. I started a company, but a few years ago, I really struggled with stress. I was going through menopause, had all the hormonal storms. I got cancer. The pandemic was happening. And it was just really bad. I didn't know what to do at first. My doctors were not much help. I just got to the point where I didn't want to get out of the bed in the morning and I had to do something for my health. So I had to think, should I get support for my stress and health, or should I stay just kind of stuck in overwhelm? And I knew I had to figure out something not just for me, but for my kids as well. So I chose to get support, and I got it through health coaching and discovered that there were all these menopause health coaches out there that could help you balance your hormones. And 3 months later, I was feeling great. And then about 3 months after that, I was so unbelievably felt healthy again and kind of young again. I just couldn't believe the changes that getting your hormones and your brain health in shape could make you feel. So that's when I really became super passionate about helping people, especially middle-aged professionals like me, balance their neurochemistry, reduce their stress and anxiety, grow into really healthy bodies, and just create an abundance of chill. The brain's responsible for all of these, right? So boosting your brain health is just that is my jam. And that's how I ended up creating this. I'm still new at it, but how I created this brain health company called brainRISE.
Yeah, thank you so much for leading us through this journey. And I would like to take it step by step because each part of it might be of interest to our listeners. I paid attention to your independent work. So you were self motivated during your work at Science Museum to write your own projects, to write your own grants. Where was this interest coming from? That you were not only satisfied with the just day to day duties, but you wanted to have something else, do something different, and were spending times during weekends when you were maybe should have gone and done some fun, but you were writing grants. So, can you tell our listeners about that?
Well, I just remember being really curious about things and just really just excited and passionate to make a difference in the world, right? So in the world of education, of there's so much that needs to change in education, right? I kind of really see it as similar to our health system. In our educational system, there's so much potential, and yet there's still like, it's not that great. Like we have so much more that we could change to make it better. And similarly, like with our health system, it helps people get, patch up problems and things like that, and it stops the bleeding. But there's so many issues with our medical system. It could be so much better. It could actually create health instead of just patching problems. 30 years ago, I was super passionate about making more of a difference. And I was curious about, well, what if we tried this? And what if we tried this? So I think it was just kind of an internal thing of just really being interested in it and wanting to be part of some positive changes.
Mhm. What limitations did you see at that time that motivated you to start finding some possible solutions?
I would say like a theme in all of my work is thinking about like equity, how to create more just environments, thinking about neuroscience and learning, and how to create learning environments that make sense for the way that we learn, make sense for our brains, and how to do that in a way that will be educational and interesting and not boring for people. So it probably had something to do with those kinds of things.
Hmm. Yes. And from that time point, you said that you realized professorship appointment is something that is possible. Yes, before you said it seemed to be something big and maybe not so much approachable. What changed in you that helped you to overcome that barrier from something big and unapproachable to something that, yes, that something is possible?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it was experience. So being able to see what a postdoc was like, get some teaching experience, work with teachers. I worked with teachers all over across the country and learned a lot about what their classrooms were like and what their school districts were like, and how to make change in schools. I learned a lot about professional development and just how to do research in classrooms with big groups of people, which is a very big, complicated thing, really. And I had a lot of ideas about it. I got really excited about all the different things that I was thinking about. And so I think a lot of it was just, getting older, getting some more experience. I think it's great for young people to have a chance to try out a job, right? So actually, like the advice that I give a lot of my college students is don't just say you're interested in medicine because that's what you think you wanted when you were 8, but actually go see what the life of someone who is in that particular field is really like. What is the day-to-day life like? What kinds of things are you going to be working on? What are the challenges in that? And what are the things that are going to be really exciting and fun for you? And make sure that you really like it. So I think I did some of that. I tried out some different types of jobs and I said, yeah, I can do this. I feel like I'm able to do this and I'm interested and I'm really motivated. So I think it was just partly getting experience and then also that kind of internal fire to do more.
Yes, and you mentioned those things that are fun and exciting. So, what was fun and exciting for you in this field of education that you were diving into?
I mean, I think education is just a fantastic field because you're changing people's lives. Right? You're educating people about science, that's if you're into science education, or maybe it's neuroscience or neurobiology or neurochemistry, and you're helping people understand how the world works, how their body works, or how nature works, which I think is super interesting. A lot of the types of work that I've done in education is like, okay, well then let's do something with it, right? Let's use that to make a decision about a real societal issue or let's use that to make a decision about an issue in your own health or let's use that to make a decision about what you're going to do in the future or how you're going to vote or just like real life things. I feel like that's just one of the a really a key aspect of development for any human or any student, and it's just something that's super interesting to work on.
And probably you also saw or you witnessed the development of various educational programs. At some point, the more science-oriented programs started to develop and being offered at different universities or in schools. Then STEM, of course, a lot of STEM programs started to develop. Now there is this interest in neuroscience. So maybe you can give an overview of what you witnessed and what you see are the main trends right now for education, for those programs in education.
There's some really exciting things happening. So I think the work on culture is really exciting. So thinking about bringing students' cultures more to the classroom and engaging with that through science. I think that all the technology coming out is amazing with computers, with devices. Students these days are often on a device for a lot of the time, and how can we best make that a good experience? So, whether they have a lot of students have like iPads or that type of like smaller device that's in their classroom, how can we make that so it's not just something that they're going to check, and they're going to check a box and say, yes, yes, I did this, or yes, I won this game. How can we help them be more of critical learners and critical thinkers while they're still on their iPad, right? So they're not just like, let me quick find the answer. It's not just about one answer. It's about learning to really solve complex problems, learning to really be a scientist and ask good questions, right? How can you use your device to ask a good question? So I think there's a lot of innovation happening in education right now related to all that technology that's out there, and a lot of really good work that still needs to happen in education too. We're gaining more and more understandings of how our brain works, and it's so exciting. Things like what you eat affects your brain health. So, in metabolic psychiatry is a big new field that I'm really interested in, and seeing how that will affect the health field as well as the education field.
Very good. Thank you. And of course, there is a technology that is being developed to facilitate education. There is now this virtual environment that we can create and immerse ourselves to learn. There is now, of course, the use of AI is a new trend, and I think many educators still don't know what exactly to do with it, to ban it in the classroom or to use it, but how to use it to really help students learn. Can you maybe comment on those two aspects because they are very interesting, very innovative, and there is still a lot of controversy, especially regarding the AI?
Yes. I think AI is super exciting, and I think it will be really helpful to have a great knowledge of AI in the future. So with education, I would just really recommend that you get to know it and don't be afraid of it. I know a lot of people who are also like, "Oh no, I'm against it. I don't want anything to do with that." But it's coming. So if we don't, figure out what to do with it in a good way, then things will be worse. Just like with like iPads coming out or having computers everywhere and then not having them used in a good way. A lot of schools have computers, but they don't use them effectively. So I think thinking about how to use VR and AI in an effective way is super important. For example, in classrooms with AI and like ChatGPT, you have a lot of students who are just, kind of plagiarizing with it and using it for not good. But it's a chance to teach people about ethics, and it's a chance to help people, develop character. So I think that that's something that can just really be helpful in educational settings. And I think it's something that, maybe we're focusing on a little bit different things. So maybe we're not focusing on the generation of writing. Maybe we're focusing on editing, right? So that's what I do a lot of with AI is like, you got to edit that a lot, right? And so you have to have a really good eye for the output and then how to edit that output to make it sound like a real person, right? Because those of us who use AI, we know when it's AI generated. We know what that sounds like. We know what the typical words that come out of AI's mouth are. And so helping people be better consumers of that, being critical consumers of that and being editors and revisers, right? Editing is a huge part of writing that we teach, right? Is that writing is editing. So let's help people be even better editors through using AI. Let's get to it. So I think there's a lot of great opportunities like that will be happening in education these days.
What do you think will be the new trends in education in the next maybe 10, 20 years?
I haven't really thought about that. I would have to give that some thought. But just off the top of my head, I mean, I think things like automated feedback, I think will be really big. We have some of that already, but I think it's like with the advent of AI, it's going to be so much more powerful. People are already using it, automated things for business. And I think that's going to become a lot more prevalent in education as well. So that's just one example.
Yes, thank you, Marcel. And now I would like to return to that time point where you entered your first academic appointment. Uh, do you remember what did it take for you to actually land your first academic job?
Academic appointments are hard. It's a lot of work to get an academic appointment, and it's a lot of even just on the interview process. They make it a lot of work to get those. So it's a couple days of work just for your interview. I would say that really good preparation is really important. So if you're looking for a job, whether it's an academic job or really any kind of job, just knowing what they're going to be looking for is super important so that you can get that on your CV or on your resume. Being really prepared to do well at an interview and being knowledgeable about what they're looking for. And with academic jobs, different schools are looking for different things, so you may be going to a school that's really teaching focused and wants to be hiring a really good teacher. You may be going to a job that's really research focused and their main priority is bringing in research funding or research publications. And so really knowing the different types of jobs that are out there and that each school is probably looking for something a little bit different. And then really crafting your application materials for that particular school is very important. I think we still get a lot of materials that are just like they're sending the same materials to all the same schools. So really make sure that you personalize it. And if you're looking to go into grad school, make sure you talk to professors at the different schools that you're interested in. And if you're looking for a professor position, you maybe not talk to the people at that school, but maybe you know someone who knows people at that school who has a little insider information about it that you could talk to, that they could let you know a little bit. Oh yeah, I used to have a friend who worked at the University of Missouri. Let me tell you a little bit about what they're about. So that can be helpful too.
What are the questions that you want to ask about the institution where you are applying for?
Yeah, well, you want to look for the type, if you can find out. Sometimes you can't find out, but if you can, try to figure out like what do they really want in that position that they're filling? What are they really looking for? And in some cases, they may say that they're hiring a neurobiologist who focuses on frogs or something, but that's not really what they want. They actually want someone who focuses on collaborations and is going to form 10 collaborations when they get there because they really want to enhance their collaborations or, something like that. There's often some other agendas that they have when they're filling the position. They really need teacher educators or they really need chemists, people who understand chemistry or whatever it might be. So it's helpful to see if you can figure that out. But don't worry about it. Sometimes it's not really information that you can get. The information you can get, though, is things like what is the atmosphere at the school? What is the tone amongst the faculty? What kind of students do they have? I think is a good question to be thinking about. Like, so what type of students do they attract at that university? Is that the type of student that you're used to working with? And if it is, then you can really play that up on your application, really talk about how you've worked with similar types of students. You can be asking about the goals that they have for the program. Do they have any particular program goals that maybe an insider might know about a little bit more? Things like that, things on their agenda that maybe are not written in the job description.
And what would be your suggestion to prepare for the interview? Let's say you got the invitation and now you need to prepare. You said that it might take a couple of days even just to prepare. What would be your recommendations?
You really want to do anything academic, do a lot of preparation. So for preparing for interviews, you'll want to always have questions to ask them. So sometimes we'll have people who come to interview and they run out of questions. You don't want to do that. Always have more questions. Always show how interested you are in them and have questions ready to go. Even if you're asking the same question to multiple people, that's okay because you may get a different answer, right? It makes it interesting to see how different people answer the same question. So have a ton of questions ready to go. Have some questions that really show your interest in their particular institution. I think a lot of people make that mistake too, where they're just asking questions about sort of what they're going to get out of it, but not to show interest in the actual institution that they're visiting. And then in preparation for your talks, so sometimes you have to give more than one talk. Make sure you have your talk really well practiced, and if you're new at doing such things, make sure you give it to a few people and get some feedback on it before you go and give your job talk, because the job talk should be very polished by the time you give it. So you can make sure that you're practicing that. And then other types of preparation are learning about the people you'll be talking to. So when you actually go on a visit, or if you have sometimes they're doing 3-hour virtual interviews these days too, make sure that you look up the people that you're going to be talking to, get to know a little bit about their background. You can show an interest in their research and the teaching that they do, the work that they do. Is a big part of what you want to be prepared for when you go on an academic interview. And you also just want to show that you're prepared to do the job, right? I think a big part of getting the job is showing that you are prepared and fit right in and are ready to jump in there and do the job, because it's so competitive, right? You want to be the one that looks ready to go.
Yes, and that's a very important moment. So, what does it make a candidate to stand out from other candidates?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's their passion for their work, or sometimes it's that wow, they gave such an amazing talk. Can you imagine what a motivational speaker they're going to be for us, Or, oh, wow, they're an amazing teacher. They have such a passion for teaching. Can you imagine what an effective job at teaching they're going to do at our place? Different people look for different things. So you have a search committee to impress, and there may be some people on the committee who kind of want one thing and another person on the committee wants something else. That happens a lot. But just be really prepared and be ready to go in there and do your best and get practice at it. I recommend my graduate students to definitely think of interviews too as like, you may have to go in 1 or 2 interviews and just practice the whole process because there's a lot to it. And that's okay. You may not get the first job that you apply for, or the first time you get an interview at a campus, you may not get it. And that's okay to kind of be prepared for that because you're getting practice. And so you should really be learning a lot on every interview you go to make yourself more competitive for the next interview that you go on.
Yes, that totally makes sense. And you also mentioned that in a search committee, some people may be looking for certain things and other members might be looking for other things. How to impress everybody? Or is that possible? Yes, to cater to everyone. What would be the best approach to make sure that everyone gets what they're looking for?
That's why they have multiple people on a committee to kind of get different perspectives, right? So I would say don't worry too much about that. To just research the people on the committee. So get to know who each person on the committee is. So you're aware of what their interests are, what research they do, what their main focus is. And then when you get there, you'll have individual conversations with those people as well as just, your talk and your bigger interviews. And just do the best that you can and don't worry about that too much. They're going to pick who they're going to pick. And there's always another job. So just do the best you can, learn the most you can. And then if you don't get that one, go try again.
Thank you, Marcel. So you entered the academia, and what were the biggest challenges for you to build your career to become a professor?
Biggest challenges. Well, academia is hard. There's a lot to learn. You're responsible to do a lot of things. So you need to learn how to be a good teacher, a good mentor, and advisor, and learn how to do your research and create a research agenda, for your future, as well as write papers, write grants, and all those kinds of things. If you're at a research school, there is quite a lot to it. So I would say one of the challenges for me was always how to prioritize everything. Right, I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to do this. Like, wow, how do I do all these things? It's a lot of work. So I think one piece of advice is that to really think about what your priorities are, what your goals are. Do you really want to be a superstar researcher? Well, then you got to really create the time to do that. Even if you have to teach 2 classes a semester or 3 classes a semester, if you want to be a big deal researcher, you've got to make sure you've got time allocated to focus on that research and getting good research done. So I think prioritizing as a professor is a really important thing. Really, any job that you have that's, where there's a lot of things coming at you and you have a lot to do. I think prioritizing for me is something that's helped me do well, and that I knew what was important and what I needed to do less work on. Don't be a perfectionist about everything. Professors learn that pretty quickly, is that you can't be a perfectionist on everything because it's just time wise, it's not possible. You have to get so many things done. And so just learn to be okay with that.
Yes, thank you so much. And you mentioned that there was a time when you just didn't want to get up, you didn't want to go and do the job, which happens at some point, I think in 80-90% of people. Just not everyone is acknowledging that. Yes.
Mhm.
It is so important to learn what to do in this type of situation. So, can you tell our listeners a little bit more about those challenges that you experienced and what was your path to get back on track and start feeling better and wanting to do things again?
Yeah, well, I think, burnout is very, very common, like you say. It happens to so many of us. I think with me, I was going through a lot of hormonal changes because my body was getting older. and I didn't know what was going on. And so I went to, a couple different doctors and tried to figure out some strategies and didn't get much help. A lot of women experience that from what I'm told about menopause is that they're just told, just do this, or you have to wait till after menopause is over and then you can get some hormones and then that will help make you feel better. But there's really so many things that you can do brain health wise to help you feel better. And I think that it's a big thing that I'm really serious about is that sometimes in our culture, we just think, oh, I feel bad. And that's just how I'm supposed to feel. I don't feel that health or I don't feel that passion and excitement about life anymore. And that's okay. Everybody feels that way. No, no, let's do better. Let's really expect that people deserve to feel well, right? They deserve to feel good again. And so brainRISE is really about boosting your brain health by reducing your inflammation, biohacking your cells, using the power of nature, which is, free and how our bodies were made to be in nature. And then using all kinds of scientific advances like photobiomodulation and, guided meditation using a device. I have this neurofeedback device. You can get an individual neurofeedback device these days. This is the one that I'm using. It's of use too. And it's amazing. It has actual EEG, like the EEG. You can get feedback for yourself. You don't have to go to a doctor. You don't have to go to a special clinic or anything. You can just put this on your head and get individual feedback to make your meditation so much deeper and more relaxed. So we use things like this in brainRISE program to help people find the chill and bring health to their life, bring health to their cells. Stress causes so many issues in your body, right? Stress causes so many health issues. So I was going through that. Like I was stressed out. Plus I had actual health issues, menopause and cancer coming at the same time. And so it was a really low point. And I said, well, I'm going to use my neuroscience background and research the heck out of all this stuff and learn how to do it. So I got a coach to help me, and then I did all this research, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm just still super passionate about doing this as a business.
Mhm. Can you maybe provide some examples of how this neuroscience knowledge, things that you explored, helped you to address some of your health issues and stress as well?
Yeah, like so for example, when in going through menopause, your body changes, your metabolism changes, right? So the way you process the food that's coming in is different than how it used to be. And, you see that and you're like, people are getting older and they're like, oh, it feels different, or I'm putting on weight. Like I didn't used to, I used to be able to eat this and now I can't, right? That's so common. But all that like insulin and all of the extra sugar and the extra carbs is really bad for our metabolism. And especially as we go through menopause, it's really bad for our hormones, right? So the extra sugar going through our bloodstream, because I was just eating like normal, not eating like an older person. And for me, that was eating as a vegetarian. So I ate all these carbs, not knowing that I was doing damage to myself. So I really learned to, for example, change my nutrition and change what I was putting into my body, reduce the carbs, reduce the sugars, add lots more healthy fats for your brain cells and lots more protein. Older people need lots more protein. This then changes how your brain works. It's amazing. And it changes how you feel because your hormones are different and acting differently, right? The brain uses so much of our metabolism. It's such an energy hog in our body. It makes sense that it's exquisitely sensitive to our metabolism and how our metabolism is working. So one of the things that we do in brainRISE is looking at all the new advances in metabolic psychiatry. Another thing we do is photobiomodulation. So using light from nature, light when you wake up, light at sunset to set your circadian clock in your brain so that you are getting good sleep, as well as red light therapy. So using infrared to reduce your inflammation in your body. So these are all things I started learning about and started experimenting on myself and doing all these things. And I was like, it's just incredible how much different I felt. And it's a wonderful thing too, as a as a brain health person now is that I get to like try out all these things. Like it's fun. I get to try out more things on myself and up level my own health and then share that with other people. So I get a huge kick out of doing that and then sharing what I'm learning with clients.
Yes, and that is another question. You started feeling better, you learned so many things, um, but it looks like it wasn't enough for you just to focus on yourself. You decided to spread this knowledge among other people, yes, and you founded your own company to do that.
Mhm.
Where is this desire was coming from? Why was it important for you to share the knowledge with others?
I think it's similar to my passion for education is that we all deserve to feel well. We all deserve to have a good learning environment where we're able to learn. I see so many people who are ill and they don't need to be. So many people like if we have such a health crisis in our country and in the world, right? If you look at like statistics like the fourth leading cause of death in young people is suicide, right? The depression causes people to be disabled. Like, depression causes people to not live as long, right? It like knocks off decades of your life because of depression. Now let's actually address the issue to create health in your body. Everything's connected. Let's create the health and then feel the feeling of health, right? We all deserve to feel that feeling. So I think partly it's just my passion to educate and to help people. It's me thinking about, how do I want to live in the last few years of my working life, right? So to me, it's something that I can move into after I retire from professor land in a few years. I've started this already, so then it'll be something I can hop into and it will already be going and I'll already have it started. So I'm excited about that aspect of it too. And something where it's fun for me to keep working on myself, up leveling my own mental health and physical health, and then sharing that with people. So it just, for me, it works out amazingly well.
And what changed for you after you started using various approaches to improve your nervous system performance? What were you able to do that you were not able to do before?
Well, before I was so stressed out that, like I said, I didn't want to deal with anything. Right? Like there's so much stress that I'm single now. I have two children. I have a big job with big responsibilities. And I was at the point where like, how am I supposed to do all of this? I have cancer or I feel like crap because I got menopause. It just became really hard. So I was at a point where I was just, I had to do something. So the change it made was going from feeling like the world is gonna end and how am I gonna get through everything, to feeling young again. It really made when I got my hormones balanced, it made me feel that feeling of, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, how I used to have the energy and vitality and optimism that I had when I was younger, which I had lost for a while. For me, it was world changing and feeling, the ability to create health, I think is also a kind of an amazing thing, right? Imagine being able to not just like take some Advil and make your headache go away, but like have skills to create better health so you don't get the headache in the first place, that type of thing. So I'm just super excited about it.
Yes, I can see it and I can hear it in your voice. Um, you mentioned the field of metabolic psychiatry. That's something I don't think I heard much about. Can you maybe tell our listeners more about that and how is this applicable to our overall health?
Yeah, metabolic psychiatry is a fascinating new field. It's something that like leaders in academia are noticing. So there is now a new center for metabolic psychiatry at Harvard. The first one, I believe, was at Stanford. There's a center for metabolic psychiatry at Stanford University with many of the researchers who were instrumental in getting this, doing all the studies. And so the idea is that the nutrition that you have and the metabolism, the way your metabolism works, affects your mental health in a huge way. So there have been studies that have shown even like serious mental conditions like bipolar, using certain nutritional plans. A lot of it is keto, related to keto, adding more fats, adding more proteins, less carbs, has an amazing effect to make it go away. Like actually as a cure for mental illness. People are so excited about it. There's tons of research happening on it. A lot more research needs to be done, to find the best protocols and the how it all works and all that kind of stuff. But it's a very, I think, hot, exciting, promising field is metabolic psychiatry.
So, and it might be the field for some of our listeners to consider as their future career path.
Oh, yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, how exciting would that be?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. You also mentioned the research on photobiomodulation. So we know that, of course, light affects our circadian rhythms, affect the way we sleep, how vigilant we are during the day. So can you tell a little bit more about that? How do you work with this information? How do you incorporate this into your daily life? And what suggestions do you provide to people in regards to
Yeah, sure. So photobiomodulation is using light to change your biology. And there's all kinds of research about it, dating back many, many years, back from just looking at the effects of natural light and sunlight on your cells to looking at the effects of certain types of wavelengths of light. So infrared is a big one. There's a huge increase in infrared facial treatments and infrared saunas that you may have heard about. There's infrared gyms. So they pump like hot yoga, or they pump infrared lights into a gym and you go work out under the infrared lights, and it reduces your inflammation, it enhances your recovery time, and you feel really good when you do it. I've tried a couple of these and the workout that you get is really different. It's amazing. And then there's also photobiomodulation, even with like patches. So people are designing patches that you can put on your skin, and the light that comes out of or not the light, the heat that comes out of your body, they make the patch a certain way so that it reflects back into your body. And then you can use actual wavelengths from your own body to affect your own cells. So that's just really fascinating stuff happening as well. So brainRISE uses red light therapy in our programs. So I have this is an example of a bulb that you can get. This one is called Bulb. My favorite one is from Sauna Space right now. They're super, super strong. You will feel a super warmth coming out of the Sauna Space bulbs. And they're beautiful hand-blown glass bulbs. But you can just buy a bulb to start with. That's what I did. I just started with one bulb. So not too expensive. This is one of the cheaper ones, Bulb. And then you get a clamp, get some type of light fixture to attach it to, and turn it on just like a lamp, and then shine it at yourself. And just do it for 30 minutes. You might want to start with 15 if you haven't done it before. 30 minutes a day, you will feel an amazing difference. So what this does is it goes into your cells and it says, hey, let's get cranking. It creates ATP. So, ATP is the energy currency of our cells. It enhances ATP production, and it does a ton of things within your system. Like infrared does so many things. It would take me like 2 hours to explain all the things that it does. It is unbelievable. So it helps you with your brain health by reducing inflammation and by stimulating your cells to have more energy, right? So you have more energy in production. It helps your immune system. It helps your muscle recovery. It's so many things. They've used this for a long time with the side effects of cancer, like reducing things like lymphedema and things like that. And now there's actually studies happening to see if it can actually kill the cancer cells themselves. So more research is being done on that. The great thing I love about this too is that with infrared therapy, it's enjoyable, right? So you can get similar effects by exercising, right? Go out and exercise. It's going to make your cells be more energized. It's going to reduce your inflammation, yes. But with infrared, you can do that and you can lie around and relax. It's so easy. So that's one thing I love about it. So if people have a lot of health problems, some biohackers will say, Well, first we have to address, like food and sleep or something like that, the very basics. But for me, I think, if you have a ton of health problems and it's hard for you to move around, let's not do exercise, food, and sleep first. Let's do this right away. Let's not wait for this. Let's do this right away because you will feel the difference right away. So this is something super exciting we use in our programs, and I have some like low cost just guides for how to do it as well that I'll be having out for sale. And that's photobiomodulation, something that I incorporate in my day every day now because it's so fun and relaxing. You can meditate while you do it. You can relax and think about the things you need to think about, zone out. You can do some light exercises too. It's a great thing to, stretch under the lights. Feels amazing on your muscles. So it's something that will immediately feel good and is immediately good for your health. And there's not a lot of things like that, right? It's easy and it's fun.
Yes, yes, I agree. And of course, because we're on a podcast that is related to neurotechnologies, I'm very curious about your use of Muse too, about the biofeedback, recording EEG and using it for your meditation. So, can you tell us everything in all the detail, please?
I do not have too many deals for you on this. I don't do this one every day. Muse, I use it once in a while to guide my meditation because it gives you feedback on how you're doing. And also it has an app where it will like give you a certain guided meditation. Like if you're trying to relax, if you're stressed out, or if you're trying to calm yourself down before sleep, there's a different meditation, things like that. So it has some wonderful guided activities that you can do. And then it gives you feedback on your calmness and on your stillness. And what they do is they actually summarize your EEG patterns. So there's EEG detectors on here. It has some like basic sensors as well. Heart rate. Oh, here we go. Heart rate, breath, and body movements. So it detects all those simpler things as well. And then it gives you feedback on how still your body's being and how calm your body's being, but it kind of averages out your EEG patterns. So that is one thing that I would I would like to get more specific information about that from this, but it's a not a super expensive device. So I think for what it costs, it does an amazing job. You do have to be careful with sometimes wetting down your forehead so that the electricity can go through. And there are some also apps that you can connect to your Muse to get more specific. So if you want to like see more of the EEG patterns yourself, there are some apps you can add to this and then get even more scientific output from it.
Mhm. And you mentioned meditation. So, how often do you use it? How helpful do you see it for your health, for your mental well being? And maybe you're aware of some evidence that is convincing to you about the effect that meditation has on brain health.
Yeah, well, I've read evidence about meditation and its ability to reduce stress, its ability to teach you to relax faster, right? So if your body gets worked up, if you're a meditator, it's like a way of training yourself to get to a relaxed state in a faster amount of time, have better recovery, like emotional recovery, you could call it. For your brain, stress is really bad for you, right? So having high levels of stress means maybe you have high levels of cortisol. If you have high levels of cortisol, what does that do to your body? Well, it's gonna impact your digestion. It's gonna impact your weight. It's gonna impact your sleep. If you have high cortisol, you're gonna wake up in the middle of the night. Like everything is so connected. So, and stress is one of those things that really is really bad for you. It's something that I've seen has messed up my own health. Meditation is a wonderful way of reducing your stress, adding more calm to your day, teaching your body how to be in a calm state, and which will really add health to your life. It's not just about the relaxation, but it actually improves your physical health because you've decreased your stress. So I think that's one of those amazing things about the brain, right? An amazing thing about meditation. I've been meditating since I was in high school. I would say I haven't always like meditated all the time. So I haven't like meditated my whole life every day or anything like that, but I've been like sort of aware of it as a thing for a very long time. These days, I try to meditate a few times a week. I don't actually have, I don't know, time, or I don't prioritize it enough to meditate every single day, but I try to do it a few times a week because of the relaxation benefits to it.
Yes, thank you so much. And maybe you can tell our listeners, what do you do in your company? How do you help people? What is the process? If somebody gets interested and contact you, what is the course of actions?
Well, there's a couple different options that you have for working with brainRISE. So right now we have a wonderful program that's called Stress Armor that's available. So you just go to I have a website that you go to for Stress Armor. You just sign up and purchase it. It's a program that's a 5-week program, and it focuses on stress reduction. It's an introduction to biohacking. So all the things that we do in brainRISE, like photobiomodulation, red light therapy, metabolic psychology and nutrition, and using nature to help us de-stress and increase our health. You'll get an introduction to all of those things over the 5 weeks. You'll get a supportive community. Also, in that 5-week program, you'll get customized recommendations from brainRISE based on your own needs and based on your own aspirations, as well as weekly reminders for what to do. And there's a supportive community involved. So you'll join a pop-up Facebook group of people who are in the Stress Armor program, and I'll facilitate you to support each other to really help everyone up-level their health and get started with biohacking and neurohacking. So that would be one way I'd recommend to jump right in. It's a great deal right now because we're having a flash sale. You can also buy certain products from brainRISE. So you can either contact me, or you can go to I know our website is down right now. It just has like a couple of links on it, but it will have links where you can actually just immediately purchase the items, things like an introduction to red light therapy, how to actually do it for yourself. And these are all really like low cost, like $69 type guides if you want to get started like that. And I also provide a lot of free resources. So I run a free Facebook group. It's called Mindful Brain Wellness. And I provide scientific information to get into healthier brain health. And there's a community as well. So people support each other, and we tell jokes about the brain and things like that. If you're into that, I'll be adding some more video lessons and video introductions and things like that in our Facebook group. And then the other thing that I offer is health advocacy. And so if people are interested in either working with me one-on-one, I don't have a lot of spots for this because I'm so busy, but if people are interested in like a one-on-one consultation, I do those, as well as health advocacy, meaning I will go with you to your doctor's appointment or Zoom in with you to your doctor's appointment and help you negotiate with your doctor so that you get the care that you need. Or if you've been having an issue with your therapist or something like that, I can go and help you talk to them about giving you the care that you need in your situation. I've worked with people who had, for example, pain in their neck their whole life, and I found a better doctor for them. It was serious. We had to go to an orthopedic doctor, and I was the communicator for them because they were just so downtrodden by not getting any support for getting rid of this pain in their neck. And they no longer have pain in their neck. So if you need a little help, I do that on a small basis as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we will include all the information how to find your company, your products, Facebook in our podcast notes so that our listeners can also access that information.
Super.
And now we are already approaching the end of our podcast, and I would like us a little bit to summarize what you told our listeners. I noticed that neuroscience really played a very important role in your whole life and career. You started with your interest while being a kid, yes, a child, and then you studied neuroscience. Your education, also, all the approaches to education stemmed from neuroscience, from cognitive psychology and neuroscience. And now your career is again a new spin in your career related to neuroscience, and even help that helped you to get healthier also was coming from neuroscience. So what would you say, what is neuroscience for your life and your career? How would you summarize it?
The brain is the most fascinating organ in our bodies, and your brain health affects the rest of the health in your entire body. So I love the brain, and I want you to love your brain. And I've had a really fun, I guess, career that's related to neuroscience, like you mentioned, throughout my life. And I hope that others can, whether you're interested in going into a neuroscience career, or you're interested in making a change in your career in a different aspect of neuroscience, or whether you're thinking about education. Education is a fabulous career that's very, very needed for our society. So I hope that you'll explore these and learn about them, do the research to really enhance people's life. Having better knowledge about neuroscience is something that helps everyone's lives be better. So better and happier.
Yes. So it's and knowledge and career and also application to real life situations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. And our podcast is called Neurocareers Doing the Impossible. And it looks like you had this time in your life that you already described our listeners, where when you had a severe disease that was happening, you were stressed, you had very big challenges in your life. In these situations, very often people feel like a better life or any improvement in situation would be impossible. So what makes the situation from impossible possible? What would be your recommendation?
Our brains can do so many things. And I think we need to remember that we all deserve to feel well. The feeling of wellness, the feeling of health is created in our brains, and it's created by our brains. And we all deserve to feel that feeling. So if anyone is struggling out there, I encourage you to ask for help. I know it can be difficult, but there's help out there. There's different things that we can do. One of the things I love about brainRISE is it's not just, the typical therapy or the typical pharmaceuticals, but we're attacking it from a totally different angle, an angle that a lot of people are not even thinking about, right? With just this neurohacking. So it could, if maybe you're a therapist, or maybe you're a psychologist, or maybe you're a doctor or a coach, it's something you can add to your repertoire to learn more about brain science, to add this additional, add nutrition to your repertoire, or add red light therapy to your repertoire. It's something that people can also add into what they provide in the services that they're giving.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Marcel. Is there anything that you would like to share or to tell our listeners before we finish our podcast?
I wish you best of luck with your neuro career, and hope that you have a wonderful career. Create it for yourself. And I hope that you will take care of your neurons.
Thank you so much, Marcel. And of course, we all wish you all possible success with your new endeavors. And I personally will be following up, and I'm very curious about what you do. I will definitely investigate more. So thank you so much for being our amazing podcast guest.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Dear Neurocareers podcast listeners, thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into the entrepreneurial world of neuroscience and neurotechnologies. I hope you've been inspired by the stories of those who are turning groundbreaking ideas into impactful realities. If you are looking for more guidance on succeeding in Neurocareers, book a free consultation with me, your podcast host, Dr. K, at the Institute of Neuroapproaches. So, what are you waiting for? Let's navigate the path to success in the world of Neurocareers and make the impossible possible together.